Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 599. I had the white pieces and kicked off with d4. My opponent played d6, and after e4, which is kind of the most natural move here, just grabbing a little more space in the center, he played knight f6, which is the main move here, and we get the Pirc defense. Well, actually, this could still transpose into something different. We'll show in the next move, but he's putting pressure on the e-pawn. There is this funny move f3 to defend the e-pawn that way, but as long as you can defend it with a natural move like c3, it's probably pretty good. And then now g6 would be the main line of the Pirc defense. Also, one of those transposition tricks is possible here. Black could play e5 and transpose into a version of the Philidor defense where I've played knight c3 instead of or ahead of playing knight to f3. So it's not quite as dangerous for black as the main line of the Philidor. So interesting way to get into the Philidor defense if you like that. But my opponent went with e6, so that's pretty far down the list. But when I looked at it with the engine, it evaluated this about the same as many other Pirc defense positions. And it thinks, as the opening book says, I should probably just continue with knight f3 and get an opening edge, the typical kind of opening edge that white has against the Pirc. I went bishop g5 instead, and after bishop e7, knight f3, and h6, kicking my bishop back, actually my advantage has diminished quite a bit. The engine didn't like this way of playing as much and wants me to retreat the bishop back along this diagonal. Instead, I kept it here. My idea was that the knight's no longer pinned, but if the knight ever moves, I can trade off this dark squared bishop for his dark squared bishop, which might be a good trade for me. But, well, one thing to keep in mind is this pawn structure in the center is fluid. It's not fixed. So he could go either way with the d-pawn or the e-pawn. So there's no telling at this point if this is going to be the good bishop or the bad bishop. So setting up to trade it off is not necessarily any good for me. Anyway, the engine thinks that black is basically equalized at this point, and the problems for black really start with the next move. He plays g5, kind of unnecessarily weakening his position because, as I said, that knight is not pinned and trading the bishop is probably not an advantage to me. So he could continue with normal development, bishop d7, castles, also knight d7. Knight d7 was a suggestion as well. And just play on in that position. But g5, it's an aggressive move, but I haven't committed to castling kingside, and it's weakening black's kingside. I drop my bishop back, play c6. That, I guess, keeps control of the b5 square here. It keeps my knight from hopping in and causing trouble on the queen side. I just developed my last minor piece, bishop d3. Plays g4, hitting my knight, but, well, making more weaknesses, and the knight has a perfectly good square on d2. And at this point, the engine rates this position as winning for white, although, well, it's not such a simple matter. But the next move makes his position quite a bit worse, because this gives me a material edge. Instead of e5, he should probably just continue to develop his pieces, or maybe play h5 first to defend this pawn, to shore up the g-pawn, and then start getting his pieces out. That would be a way to continue to play where white has a significant edge. But anyway, e5 and just gives up a pawn here, and there's no particular compensation. It's true the d file was opened up, but I don't have any great targets here. Everything's pretty well defended. He castles at this point. This unpins his knight. The knight was pinned again with the bishop on this diagonal, looking at the rook. I play queen e2 to prepare queenside castling. He goes bishop e6, starting to get his last few pieces out. I castle, and now he goes knight f to d7. It might make more sense actually to bring the other knight to d7 if he wants to harass my bishop, but he chose to do it that way. And now he trades it off with the bishop to g5. I don't have to take here. I could just drop it back. But I don't really want to give up this diagonal, so I probably want to keep it on this diagonal somewhere because that's might be sensitive looking at this knight and my king. So I trade. He takes back with the queen, and then I play king to b1. I'm pinning my knight, and I'm pretty much ready for anything because he's castled to the side where he has all these pawn weaknesses, I have a really simple plan, and I just need to push these pawns forward to open up some lines and bring my rooks over here. And my pieces are already pretty well poised to jump into the attack. Pushing these pawns forward, by the way, if I can get pawns on, say, f4 and e5, that would also open up squares and lines for my bishop to look onto the king side. So that's my plan, is to just start pushing those pawns forward. Let's see, he goes knight e5. And I was thinking for a bit, I mean, this seems to call for the move f4. So I could take a moment and bring a rook over to defend that pawn and push it to f4. And the chess engine thinks that's a fine way to play as well. But f3 is good. This is what I played, threatening to open up a line here. And although I'm not immediately threatening to take here, because he can take back with the bishop, and that would be an annoying skewer. That move might backfire on me. Anyway, he played knight takes d3. I take back. Then he brought his rook over to harass the queen. I dropped back, and he played h5, defending his g-pawn there, shoring it up. So now, like I said, I don't want to take on g5 and invite his bishop to that good square. So I bring a rook over. I move the h-rook to the f-file. Now I am just going to push these pawns forward, and as I mentioned, it'll open up squares for my knights to hop into the game. So he stops that plan by taking. And I could take back with the knight, but I wanted to open up the g-file here. So I take back with a pawn. I've got the immediate threat of rook g1, skewering the queen and king. So queen gets out of the way. I give the check anyway, and the king runs to the h-file. So my play is very simple right here. I just line up and threaten checkmate on g7, and he's in a tough choice trying to defend this. Actually, he played queen f6 here, which holds it off for a moment. But a little more accurate would have been queen h6, because as we see in the game, this h-pawn is loose over here, and that's a problem as well. But he dropped his queen back here. I'll push on with the f-pawn, and I'm going to push on with the e-pawn next. He plays bishop g4, blocking the g-file and hitting my rook. So get the rook out of the way. And now he finally gets his last piece out, knight to a6. But I play h3 to open up the g-file. And bishop has no good squares along this diagonal. It has to retreat. And now I play queen f3. And this is the winning move. Although he could defend a little better from here. The chess engine thinks I'm still winning anyway, and gives the best move for black as bishop to g4 there, blocking the diagonal but sacrificing a piece. But anyway, that's his best hope at this point. His pieces over here on the queen side are just too far away, and all of my pieces are ready to break through to his king, and his pawn structure has been disrupted around the king. So just too many things gone wrong for black here. But he makes it easy for me by grabbing the knight. It's funny, and when I played queen f3, I didn't even notice that the knight was hanging. But after he took, I realized that my threats were much more serious than just the loss of a knight. And after queen takes h5 check, he resigned. The only legal move here actually is queen to h6, and then I'll just take the queen and mate him. So it's just a forced mate. Anyway, interesting but short game. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.